Those are mine. Okay. Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order. Excuse me. I'd like to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Clerk, could you do roll call, please?
Mr. Ruggles is absent. Mr. Paul?
Here.
Andrea Voorhees.
Present.
Liz?
Present.
Mr. Roman?
Here.
Mr. Lilly Sarah, Mr. Supervisor.
Here. I'd like to make Mr. Clerk, if you would please, about the agenda.
Mr. Supervisor, I'd like to make the following corrections to the minutes for tonight. One is the new list of bills. I'd like to remove 8C from the agenda. I'd like to add item under
7.1?
I'm sorry.
7.1?
Yeah, just under presentation, just after a consent agenda, before we do the minutes, a small presentation. And also, Mr. Supervisor, it's been requested that the board consider moving item F under 8 to the beginning of the agenda. Is there any other comments as far as moving the one agenda item?
The beginning of the agenda or the beginning of the new business?
The beginning of new business. Do I get support for the...
If there's no discussion about moving the one item, they could make a motion to approve the agenda has been presented.
Support? Any further discussion? No? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Okay. Next I'm going to go to is public comment. This public comment is technically for, we like to see issues that are not on the agenda, and your period will be for 3 minutes of comment. Please identify yourself to the board and the recorder. Any public comment at this time? Yes.
Good evening. My name is Bethany Danowitz, and I'm a resident of 2262 Hampton Street, located in White Lake Township. I am here tonight to address the board with a concern that I have regarding the conduct of one of its members, specifically Ms. Smith. Allow me to elaborate. My daughter is a second grader at Houghton Elementary, located in White Lake Township, where I currently sit as the school PTA president. I am very involved in the school, and it is through this involvement that I have crossed paths with Ms. Smith. I have on multiple occasions witnessed Ms. Smith berate both school employees and other parents during school hours and in front of students. Most recently was on Tuesday, February 14th, when both Ms. Smith and I were attending a class Valentine's Day party at Houghton Elementary. Though I was not witness to everything that took place that day inside the classroom, I did observe Ms. Smith in a very heated conversation with the school principal, where she was raising her voice and showing clear agitation. This was taking place in the hallway where students were coming in and out of their rooms, being witness to this behavior as well. As the situation escalated, Ms. Smith was asked to leave the school by administrators, and when she refused, the police were called. I observed both White Lake Township and Waterford police departments at the school. A report was being taken while the students exited their classrooms to go home for the day. I brought along a copy of the police report, case number 17-3241, that was filed that day by the White Lake Police Department. Ms. Smith's name is on the report, and the verified offense is listed as disturbance. It goes without saying that no parent wants to see multiple police cars at their child's school. I was not, however, surprised to see that Ms. Smith was a part of the problem requiring the police to be at the building. This is because of my own personal experience with her on October 30th, 2015, when we were attending a class Halloween party in the same classroom. During that party, Ms. Smith screamed at me personally, just inches from my face, as well as the classroom teacher, once again in front of a room full of first graders, making them feel scared and uncomfortable. Ms. Smith's behavior is both shocking and unacceptable, and the repeated pattern is consistent with what would be officially classified as bullying. She is a nuisance and creates undue stress and hostility to the students, staff, and parents at Houghton Elementary. While I am currently working with the Waterford School District to rectify her permitted presence in the school building, I find myself asking what type of behavior and conduct should be acceptable for someone sitting as a trustee on the board of the township that I reside in and pay taxes in. I can say personally that as a taxpayer in White Lake, as a parent of a school student in White Lake, and as an active voter in White Lake, I take offense to Ms. Smith's behavior and am disgusted by her representation of my community in her current role as a board member in White Lake Township. While Ms. Smith's concerns with issues within the school may be valid, her use of bullying, threats, and intimidation, all in the presence of students, are most unacceptable and an abuse of her power as a trustee of this township. I am here tonight as a mom of 3 young children, doing everything I can to ensure their safety and well-being in this community. I choose to live here and to raise my family here. Smith's personality, demeanor, and behaviors are hers to live with as a person. However, as a board member, I expect better, as I hope you do as well. My hope is that, based off of the information that has been shared, the board will review the behavior of Ms. Smith and hold her liable for her conduct. Along with me tonight are other parents who feel similarly, some of which that would also like to share their experiences. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else have a comment, please?
My name is Phil Danowitz, and I am the husband of Bethany, and I too reside at 2262 Hampton in White Lake. My daughter also is a second grader at Houghton Elementary in White Lake. And my wife spoke for us. I'm really here to speak for her. She's 8 years old and deserves to be in a safe and welcoming environment in which to learn. On at least 2 occasions, very memorable occasions, should be happy occasions for her, a Halloween party and a Valentine's Day party, that simple right has been taken away from her by an adult who I learned is a family member of one of her fellow classmates. That person is also an elected trustee for the township in which I live, Liz Smith. To me, it does not matter why she has been in the school. The issue is her conduct while she has been in our school. You've already heard her conduct described by my wife, but in short, it is hostile, disruptive, and completely against what our local school, and I believe what our township and this board stands for. As a resident and taxpayer, I'm appalled and deeply saddened that this conduct can go on unabated without any recourse. I'm embarrassed to have this person, who should be an example, quite frankly, for my daughter as a young child, to represent my township. Those are my feelings, but as I said earlier, I'm really here to speak for my daughter. So what would my daughter say if she were here? Well, this is what she said to me. Why was that lady screaming in my class? Why was my class party scary instead of fun? Why are all the grown-ups so upset? Why did that lady yell at my friend's mom? Why did that lady yell at my mom? Why were there policemen at my school? Why were there people crying? And why do I feel scared when this lady comes into my class? Would any of you like to hear those things from your second grade daughter? Of course not. I don't think any reasonable person would. I want this township board to be one that I'm proud of, and right now that's not the case. Ms. Smith, I assume that none of your colleagues know about this conduct. And if they do know, I'd like to know what's being done to investigate and act upon this behavior. Mr. Kowal, Mr. Lilly, Mr. Roman, Mr. Powell, Mr. Ruggles, and Ms. Voorhees, you have all worked for years to create a good name for this board and for this township. I want you to know that this is in jeopardy at this time. This behavior was none of your concern in prior years, and it would not have been my place to bring it to this forum, but now it is. I ask respectfully for you to investigate these actions through police reports, through information from school administrators, and from parents who have been eyewitnesses to these actions. I ask you to act decisively and quickly. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Any other comment? Okay. That being said, those comments are duly noted, and thank you. We're moving on to the consent agenda, please.
What is Ms. Smith have to say about all of this?
This is not a debate. This is strictly a
Okay.
public comment.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Okay?
Out of line. I apologize.
All right, thank you.
So I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll support that.
Mr. Powell?
Under discussion, because the public and those on TV don't get a chance to see what we have here, I just want to commend our police department and our fire department. 93 calls were responded to by the police department in 1 month, and that's just absolutely remarkable. And actually 499 calls, and there were 93 arrests last month alone. The fire department went on 230 runs, and that's about seven a day for the entire month. And so our departments are doing an incredible job. I did want to ask the police chief a question. I noticed that the burglary and home invasion was up dramatically last month over last year. Didn't know if you noticed a trend, anything, advice you can provide our residents on that?
No trend. There's I don't want to get too much into it. There was on a couple of the home invasions, there's a countywide investigation in reference to two of those. And the other two were, we know who the suspects are. So in all of them, we know who they are. So we're investigating those.
Is it a location that we can?
It's throughout the township.
Okay. Thank you, Chief. And then just one other point, that we gave out 65 building permits last month. That's a great improvement and a blessing to the township.
Yes,
Okay.
I'm seeing an uptick. Yes, Mr. Roman?
Well, while we're talking about the consent agenda, I just want to say thank you to my staff for processing 126 passport applications in the month of January. You'll notice on the treasurer's report, we took in over $3,000 for the month. We've budgeted $9,000 for the entire year. So after 1 month, we're already a third year. Just a great job by the treasurer's staff.
Does that mean our residents want to leave?
I have motion, I have support. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The consent agenda is passed. At this moment in time, I would like to do a presentation to our former supervisor for a period of 6 years they served us, Mr. Greg Baroni. And with one presentation, Senator Mr. Mike Kowal would like to step forward and present that.
Just for the record, he's my brother, not my son. I have a presentation here, and I know Eileen has one for you from the county commission as well. But Greg, you know, it was a real pleasure having you follow me in after when I decided to run for the Senate. I felt that things were in really good hands, and I had no worries at all about how things were going to progress as we do. I didn't know that Rick wanted to run, but you know, you've done a lot of great things, and one of the things that really impressed me is the carrying on with the Historical Society here in White Lake Township. And you know, I'm constantly having meetings with the historical societies from around the state, and you know, if you don't know where you've been, you don't know where you're going. And I've been explaining that to a lot of the younger folks, because they're always hesitant to get involved in groups like the Historical Society, because they think it's just a bunch of old folks sitting around talking about the way things used to be. Well, that's part of it, but once they learn, they start realizing that they need to know that so they can know what's coming down the road in the future. So we had these presentations done, special tributes by the state of Michigan. We had the opportunity to have Jim Runstead sign on board, and Lieutenant Governor Talley, and the governor of the state of Michigan as well. But it says, with special tribute, therefore, this document is signed and dedicated to honor Greg Baroni as he celebrates the conclusion of his civic service. May he know of our admiration and warmest wishes for continued success in every endeavor. And we know, Greg, whatever you do, you will succeed at. So, congratulations. That works for Jim Runstead just started here a little while ago, and he asked her to say a couple of words on his behalf. So.
Yes, Mr. Baroni, Jim wanted me to tell you that he regrets he wasn't able to be here tonight. He had some business that he hadn't anticipated in Lansing, but he really, really appreciates the enduring and impactful things that you've done for the people of White Lake while in office, and especially since you decided to become a public servant after a long, distinguished career in the private sector. And he's very much enjoyed working for you and with you, and he hopes that you'll stay in touch.
Well, thank you very much for being here tonight.
Well, Greg, ditto on all that stuff, and just wanted to say too that I've heard good things about you at the county, and that you've been great for the various county departments, whether it's IT or whatever. That you've been very cooperative to work with, and had a good working relationship back and forth. So
Financial departments and all those other departments.
Yeah. Well, there's good resources there, so you need to avail yourself of them, and it's appreciated. So I have we call them proclamations at the county level. I don't know why, but I have one here from the county. It says, "Now therefore, Michael J. Gingell, Chairperson of the Oakland County Board of Commissioners, together with Commissioner Eileen T. Kowal, and along with the entire Oakland County Board of Commissioners, we hereby proclaim commendation to Greg Baroni and wish him a wonderful retirement." And it's signed by the Chairperson, Michael Gingell, and myself. And as my husband always points out, his is affixed with a seal, mine is too. So.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Mine's gold.
Oh, sorry.
Surrounded by coal walls.
Scary.
Right, that's Friday.
It can be.
Very scary. It's like cowbell. You can't hit on
That was good.
Greg, I'd like you to address the crowd. I just asked the supervisor if I could have a couple minutes. I appreciate both of these proclamations from the state as well as the county. But this is not all about me, okay? I would just like to take and bring up the fact that when I was supervisor, I had a team of people working with me. I always, and I'm looking at Rick because we've talked about this extensively, there is no I in team. There is no I in team. So when I receive these, I want to take and recognize the team that makes this township run, the board being number one, and I'd like to thank you very much for allowing this presentation to happen tonight. The departments from A to Z, assessing through zoning, awesome people, keep this township running. When I have developers coming into my office, back when I was supervisor, to stay, when I come into White Lake Township, I'm always greeted with a smile, and I walk out of here happy, because I always get the right answers. That's what makes White Lake a wonderful place. We have a new police chief, Chief Keller, which I'd like to take and congratulate at this time, because I wasn't here at last month's meeting, but congratulations. And also Chief Gurka, both services that are 100% behind this township and watch out for this township 100% of the time. So once again, thank you very much for the proclamations. I appreciate it, but it's not all about me. It's about everybody else in this township working together as a team to make White Lake Township a great place to live. And I'd like to thank you at that time. Thank you. With that said,
Love the haircut.
with that said, Marilyn and I have another meeting that we have to take and scoot out to. Good luck on your meeting tonight. It looks kind of like a lengthy one, but good luck on your meeting tonight. And if you need to make a phone call, I think Rick's got the phone number, Gary's got the phone number. Give me a call.
Thanks, Greg.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
See you guys.
Oh,
See ya.
Okay, on to the item 7, minutes. Minutes of January 17th, 2017. Mr. Roman.
Mr. Supervisor, I'd like to make a motion to approve minutes of January 17th, 2017.
I have a motion to approve. Need support?
Support?
I have support. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes of January 17th are approved. Minutes of January 31st. Mr. Roman?
Motion to approve minutes of January 31st, Mr. Supervisor.
I have a motion.
I'll support that.
Approval by Andrea. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes of January 31st are approved. Moving on to item 8, new business. We are looking at the Kroger redevelopment, moving that forward. Mr. O'Neill.
Thank you, sir. You have in front of you, the board members, have the
Behind us?
color. Yeah, the color's not too great there, but you can see it here. This is the Kroger redevelopment, which may be a little confusing. It's actually the Mondry building, but it's also referred to as a Kroger redevelopment, file number 16-017. This is the old Kroger store that is being redeveloped and re-tenanted by Hobby Lobby and Ulta. And you see the elevations here on the screens. This is the goal here is to kind of complement the new Kroger store, which is right next door, and we think they're doing a good job. So far, they've been to the Planning Commission and to the Zoning Board of Appeals seeking approvals and variances. The Planning Commission on January 19th, they were granted preliminary recommendation for preliminary approval and final site plan approval all at once. It's a pretty straightforward project. There's no change to the building footprint, just to the elevations. They're going to kind of redevelop the site, redo the parking lot, some of the landscape islands to really dress it up a bit and make it look more like the new Kroger store. So there's not a real dramatic number of changes to the overall property. So we felt that we could deal with them both at once. So those approvals are subject to your action, as was the Zoning Board of Appeals action on January 26th when they received the variances they were after that really dealt with interior landscaping and also, let me get to this is a little bit difficult to see. This maybe makes them stand out a little further. Here's M59, and you see these kind of oval shapes. These are interior landscape islands. They were unable to meet the planting requirement of the zoning ordinance, so they fell short of the number of trees. So instead of planting a 2.5-inch caliper tree, they offered to plant fewer trees but a 4-inch caliper. So we thought that was a good compromise, and the ZBA approved them both for that and the interior landscaping area requirement. You know, again, this site is pretty well defined. Everything around it's developed. This isn't a green field. They were very limited as to the area they were working with here. So they are really boxed in. So those were all kind of unique circumstances that led the ZBA to feel that a variance was warranted. The other thing that should be noted is the Planning Commission made a finding that they would not require the banking of parking spaces beyond the zoning ordinance maximum. So I think that's important to note as well. They expect this to be very busy, and while I don't know how many people will park out near M59, which is again quite a distance from the road, the applicants themselves, and if they speak, they may tell you it's really not driven by their desire to put more paving in. It's driven by the desire of virtually every retailer we see come in the door who demands a certain number of parking spaces per 1,000 square feet, which is the case. So it's really Hobby Lobby and Ulta that are driving that requirement for parking, and so that is really the project in a nutshell. I don't know if you have any questions. I'd be happy to answer them, or direct questions that I may not have the answer for to the applicants who are here tonight. Mr. Prokosky, Mr. Gershenson are both in the audience, as well as I believe their engineers are here as well.
Well, seeing as this plan has been through the Planning Commission process and has been looked at that, and being a former member on that board and knowing all those board members, I know that it was done with scrutiny, and upon reviewing the minutes of that meeting, I'm very confident in their actions. And also under your direction, I'm very confident that all the i's are dotted and the t's are crossed. I will say that I know that it's a little tough with the landscape, but I believe the continuity will be there. This will look like as seamless a development as you can possibly get. With that, I personally have no further questions, but I will go through the board and see if the board members have any questions or comments. Mr. Powell.
I know there's a surprise to you. Well, I had never been to a Hobby Lobby, and so last night I actually went to Novi and walked through that Hobby Lobby, and I was just amazed. I was out of my element, however. I deal with nuts and bolts and tools and civil engineering, and so I was just amazed at the product they have in there, and it's a home decorating. And then of course I went right into the as well. No, I'm kidding. But I was amazed, and I'm going to be thrilled, and I know my wife is thrilled to have one coming into the township. I wanted to concur. Those new landscape islands, I think, will just make that parking lot be a much nicer parking lot. I didn't know whether or not the police department and/or Sean or maybe the owner might help us out. I didn't know if there were any security cameras being proposed out in the parking lot, and I didn't ask that question of the Kroger as well, and so I didn't know if that was something that the new tenants and the landlord had looked at.
So far, we haven't considered that, but we're open to suggestions. So if it becomes necessary, it'd be something easy to add.
It's not necessary until it's necessary. It's one of those type of things, and so I just wondered whether or not that had been thought of, and so I throw that out there to you as the tenant or the landlord. And then maybe just a note to our planning department, and maybe my colleagues on the board would differ with me on this. We killed a few trees in order to provide the township board with all these plans. And I'm a civil engineer, so I read these things every day, so I get a kick out of them. But maybe the standard details, things like that, don't have to come to the township board. But the site plans and the landscape plans maybe, but how to build a manhole probably doesn't interest many people up here. And you might just take that as a note that they don't have to do all of that.
We provide everything to the Planning Commission digitally and have for some time now, and that was sort of the guinea pig. And so just to kind of dovetail off of that, it is all available on the Planning Commission agenda drive, I'm going to call it. So, I mean, with your direction, I can certainly provide you with memos that direct you to go to the Planning Commission page and find the information within their packet if that's helpful, or create one for you for things like this. I mean, I would agree we don't need.
Well, I'm an old dude, and so I like to hold paper in my hand, but I don't necessarily need all the standard details. But the overall, just the site plan and landscape plan and a floor plan, that might be helpful, but all the standard details, we can save a couple trees on that. Otherwise, I'm thrilled with the project, and I think the staff did a great job.
Mr. Roman, any comment?
Nope, all set.
Good.
Ms. Voorhees?
I'm
Just
good.
want to thank the developers. Thanks for coming to White Lake, guys.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Lilly?
I'd just also like to thank the members of the Planning Commission for all the work that they do for us. Obviously, this gets a pretty thorough review before it does come to the Township Board. Pleased that somebody has the foresight to see that maybe combined both the preliminary and final site plan review
Yes.
together, that will obviously save the developer a lot of time and money, and also will enhance our ability as kind of supervisors of the township, so to speak, to see that a vacant building is now being rehabbed and will make a very, very nice complex down there.
And make a nice
I want to
addition.
thank Planning Commission members as well as Gershenson for all they've done for this community.
Yes.
A lot of them. Thank you.
Ms. Smith, any comment?
I'd just like to thank you as well. I appreciated the thorough report. I too like paper to look at it in my hand, so it was very thorough. I'm looking forward to having Hobby Lobby and Ulta. It'd be a great addition to White Lake. So I appreciate the work and the report.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Lilly.
I'd like to make a motion to approve both preliminary and final site plan, file number 16017, and also that they comply with all of the recommendations that have been put in the request from the Planning Commission.
Support?
I have motion. I have support. Any further conversation?
I guess I can just ask the planning director. I believe that it's just preliminary plan approval because the planning commission does the final site plan approval, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. But there's nothing wrong with the motion as stated, so I'm still good with it.
Okay. With that, I would say all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. My wife will be happy that the Alta is there. That's like crack.
I just want to thank all of you again. It's been wonderful working with your township through the development. This is our third project here.
Yes.
We're really, really appreciative of all.
We've got more property you
Yeah,
can
we
work
should
on.
definitely do.
So try.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. You've been doing a fine job on this presentation.
Moving on to item 8, what would be 8A, the budget amendment for the sewer debt. Mr. Roman.
I'm asking the board to approve a transfer of $325,000 from the general fund to the sewer fund in order to make the Phase 1 bond payment. It becomes due March 1st, $572,000. The request is made pursuant to Resolution 13-006B, which authorized future transfers upon recommendation of the Township Treasurer. Repayment of the transfer shall commence after all principal and interest on the Phase 1 bond is paid. Sewer fund currently has a balance of just over $250,000. And just FYI to the board, after we make this payment, we've only got one left.
Very good.
Awesome.
Yeah, finally. I'll put that in the form of a motion to approve the budget amendment for $325,000.
I'll support that, acknowledging that the repayment will begin in a couple months, and that's great.
Actually,
another year.
Another year, I'm
Another
sorry.
year.
Thank you.
Another year. I have motion, I have support. Any further conversation? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Yes, thank you. Excuse me. Item 8B, 8565 Pontiac Lake Road is kind of an FYI. Counselor?
Nope, it's no longer an FYI. We didn't get the complaint filed.
Okay.
So it was an exigent circumstance request, but at this point, the complaint hasn't been filed, so it is just a request of the Township Board to initiate litigation against 8565 Pontiac Lake Road for the sewer issues, the septic issues.
I beg your pardon, Counselor.
No problem.
Some of these items were discussed previously. There was a request that this building be hooked up within the 90-day period, and there was no positive response from the landowner, and therefore we will move into enforcement.
It's my understanding that the property's for sale as well, so we need to move quickly on it.
There appear to be two structures on this piece of property. Do we happen to know which structure, or are they both using the same septic field?
It's my understanding they're both on the same.
Both on the same septic.
Both on the same septic. It's a residential structure and a 4-unit apartment complex.
Correct.
If I may, we don't really know that they're using the same field.
You did what,
We
sir?
don't really know that they're using the same field, Mike.
Okay.
But the field that we know is having the issues is on the 4-unit, correct?
In the apartment, correct.
Okay.
But it's all one parcel ID.
It's all one parcel.
Okay. Any comment, Mr.? Oh, one moment.
So I just want to note for the record that there is a letter in the packet that's dated February 9th, and there is another letter that was handed out tonight, February 21st.
To them, okay.
Yeah, it was a revised memo changing the circumstances. I'm still working with the county for their affidavit to attach to the complaint. As you know, the county does the inspections and permitting for septic issues, and they're the ones who notified us of the failure. So we're proceeding in accordance with our ordinance at this point.
Okay.
Do we need
Yes.
a motion then to initiate?
To initiate litigation,
Yeah, I'll
to
make a
authorize.
motion to initiate litigation on the 8565 Pontiac Lake Road property.
I have a motion,
Support.
a support by Andrew Voorhees. Question, Mr. Powell?
Discussion, certainly, this is very important because we do not want the health department to issue a septic field repair permit on this. Our ordinance
They-
doesn't allow that.
they won't.
They won't.
And that's good, thank you.
County's assured us they will not do that.
Good.
Okay. Motion, I have support. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Chief Kirka. You're here to request a roof replacement for station number 2.
Yeah, that's correct. That's our station on Round Lake Road. What we've been doing over the last few years is we're trying to make our stations, bring them up to par with all the maintenance that's needed. We don't want them to be an eyesore to the public, which they aren't. Many things have been attended to. We've done a lot of sprucing up, painting, new signage. And we're at the stage of kind of finishing out a few things. Over at Station 2, one of those things we'd like to finish is the roof. The roof's deteriorated. There was a lot of branches and trees that were hanging over that station for many, many years. We did identify that issue, trimmed up those trees, and of course discovered, unfortunately, a lot of problems with the roof. So we did go out under the procurement policy and obtain 3 bids. And I'm recommending that we go with the lowest bidder, which I also think is going to be the best contractor for this job. They have quite an extensive list of references. I have spoken to some of the references, and I think we'll be quite pleased. The township will be quite pleased with their work. They did give us kind of a fire department discount, and as you can see, their price is $6,900.
Significantly less. We had some general conversation and reminiscent of that station, and I think that roof is from 1996?
In the 90s, last
Back in
time
the
it was
90s,
done.
so it's served the township as well as it can.
Yeah, and I think, had those branches and trees not have been dropping leaves and overhanging, might have got some more years out of it, but I think that really contributed to the early failure of it.
I don't think it's early. It's just wasn't
Who's the
extended.
company that you're going to use, if I may ask, please?
It's City Roofing is what we're requesting to use.
Okay, I have the chief's request for city roofing for the cost of $6,900. Looking for a motion.
Maybe just under discussion before
Yeah,
motion is
certainly.
made, Mr.
Certainly.
Supervisor. There are some provisions in the city roofing proposal that might include some extras if they find some damage to the wood, some possibly some mold and additional layers of roofing. So I'm going to at least suggest who's ever making the motion to add some extra dollars. I was going to put the budget at like eight grand, up to that amount or something. Just to
Mr. Lilly, you have a comment?
I'd like to basically see what the shingles are that they're proposing to put on this. I would not want to see us just to go to a plain shingle that's rather
Sure,
thin
that's
when we
it.
can go to a nice dimensional shingle that's a little bit thicker and do that. So I would like to also ask, as Mike did, maybe to include some additional money in the proposal, just in case we find that the present shingles are not living up to what our expectations are, that we have a choice to.
So you want to go to like
heavier duty
8,500 or 9,000? What would you feel comfortable with, Mr. Lilly?
I would, I think 9 would probably
I think
cover
9
it.
would work for me too, yeah.
And I'm good with that as well. I do note that there's a limited lifetime with a 10-year labor warranty, but I think the neighbors are owed really nice dimensional type shingle in there, so I agree.
Well, we're constantly trying to enhance
Right.
how the township looks, so,
Right.
and it is a fact that the thicker dimensional shingles do hold up better, so. Okay, so we have an expenditure not to exceed $9,000. I'm looking for a motion.
I'll make the motion to approve City Roofing Company for no more than $9,000, and that we have an opportunity, if there is additional
Subject
things
to-
that need to be fixed, that our building department has a chance to look at that and improve, and they provide us with shingle samples that we can, the administration can look at and be satisfied that we're getting the proper thickness shingle and whatever, so.
Very good.
I'll support that.
Support that? Okay, I have motion, I have support. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Chief, you get a new roof on that building.
Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Chief.
I appreciate it. Thank
Don't go
you.
anywhere.
Okay.
Item 8E, request for bids to resurface, you're requesting to go out for bids to resurfacing parking lot at station number 2, I believe. And 3, excuse me.
Yeah, that's correct. This is actually a request to go out for bids. And this was something that I had prepared last year and have been holding to this new budget. This is something that was identified 3 years ago, also when I started the position as chief, of something that is, really needs to be done at both stations. What you'll see in the packet is just an example of what we'd like to do at either station, which is some of it would be complete removal of the asphalt and creating a better base and then new asphalt. Other areas would be resurfaced accordingly. So what we'd like to do is I'd like to create a nice bid packet, go out to bids, and then bring all the information back to the board, for your review.
What I'd like to see you do, Chief, in light of the fact that these driveways are used by these vehicles, it's not like a residential driveway that you would go out and put asphalt on your driveway. We run a tanker over it with full of water. We now have 40,000 pounds going over this driveway. If they drove it across your driveway at the edge, in an emergency, you'll live with the crack to put the fire out, but we would rather have our materials last a little longer. With that, I would like to instruct you to consult with Johnson and Anderson prior to letting the bid out to meet all necessary grades, runoff, water control. It would be real nice to see the water controlled diversion from downspouts and such, as so that if we do have further exposure to the surface, that the water containment or redirection, so we don't have any slip and falls or anything of the sort at the station, or any exposure to unnecessary moisture to that asphalt during the wintertime and the freeze and thaw. So I would like you to consult with Johnson and Anderson prior to doing that, and sort of kind of generate those bid specs that you're talking about.
And why not
Sure.
concrete? I mean,
Excuse me, ma'am, you're out of order, okay? You can raise your hand and I'll acknowledge you, okay? Thank you. But if you can do that, I think we'd all be, it'd all be in the same playing field, and then all the estimates would all come in on the same material.
Sure. There's something else that I learned, doing some of this research, is that a lot of times to save money, people will have asphalt just placed down all at once. In other words, they'll put the complete layer on at once, but it's recommended, again, with our situation, and it will cost more to actually have it done in 2 applications, where a base is created, an initial application is put down, and then that material is left to settle for a while, and then a second the company has to come out a second time with all their equipment, so the cost is higher, but you get a better job that potentially won't have as many cracks. And
We'll make a civil engineer out of you yet, Chief.
Yeah,
Oh.
it's getting there.
You did say one thing, erroneous, though. You don't need to wait. Asphalt pavement doesn't cure, really, so they can, it's just a matter of compaction. So they put the one layer down, and then they can come over and put the other lift down. I want to reiterate what you said. That was an excellent point. Asphalt pavement is very flexible, and it's only as strong as the base below it. And so the bids that you showed us from Allied was sorely lacking in base repair. And then shame on me, I didn't notice that it was just a secure for bids. I wanted to give you, I just went out for bids for a project not unlike this. And on a $300,000 project, the bids ranged $110,000 depending on which contractor bid on it. So the number of bids will assist you, and J&A will be an invaluable use to us. So.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
Any other questions or comments? Mr. Lilly?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the chief's request to go out for bids, subject to J&A design as well as the appropriate permits from the Oakland County Road Commission.
Okay. I have a motion. Do I have support?
Support, Terry, would you please also add to that, let's get a quote for any surveying necessary from J&A. That's going to be part of that cost as well. So then I'd second it if you'd add that.
I would add that.
Their services inclusive.
Correct.
Okay.
So I supported that.
You supported that?
Yes.
Okay, I'm just making sure. I was waiting to see if you were done. You know, I've learned.
Yes,
Okay.
that's good.
Okay. With that, I say all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you
Chair.
very much. I appreciate
Thanks.
it. Thank you.
Okay. We are looking at item 8G for the Four Corners Square. I guess it all depends on how you read it. Four Corners Development.
I think Mike's gonna.
Mr. Lufkin?
Supervisor, I have a recommendation, if there's no objections, that this issue be reviewed and discussed through the preliminary site plan process. And then we'll come back for board approval for the preliminary site plan, just as we did with Hobby Lobby. That plan would have to address the ordinance issues in regards to utilities. We can discuss them at that time.
Okay, yeah. I personally don't have a problem with that. Yeah.
I totally agree, Mr. Supervisor. There are some issues on where these utilities might cross the site and where the best spot is for them to be stubbed. It's a little premature for the board to act at this time, I believe.
Yeah, and we do have some environmental issues there that we're all very concerned about, and I think that's paramount. So that plume, we'd like to keep it where it is and get it cleaned up. So don't have a problem with that. So
I move to postpone.
I just move it to
preliminary site plan approval.
Preliminary site plan approval.
All right, I'm good with that.
It's not really an action item.
It's not. Yeah, we don't.
If you're really not gonna
We're just
deal
gonna
anything.
defer it.
Thank you. That's true.
Yeah. Okay, we're deferring it to planning.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Lisa, for clarifying that. Item 8H, Aspen Meadows Wellhouse upgrade. This is going to be part of our ongoing water maintenance program that we have been working at, and I've been involved with Mr. Potter as much as I can on Wednesdays to be involved with a hands-on knowledge of where our issues lie within our system. Simply because a lot of it is, it's 40, 50 years old. I mean, it's time to effect some repair. So, Mr. Potter, I'm going to let you kind of tell us a little bit.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. So tonight we have presented for your approval 2 variable frequency drives for the 200 horsepower pumps at Aspen Meadows Wellhouse. So what these are, variable frequency drives are a type of motor starter that allows you to vary the speed of the motor using the least amount of electricity possible. They also allow you to start up and shut down the motor at a slower rate than the current soft starters that are on those two motors now. So the soft starters that are there typically have two speeds, basically medium and full blast. And the problem with that is that they cause a significant shock to the system when they start. These drives would effectively eliminate that shock completely. They also would allow you to seamlessly integrate into the new SCADA when we get that far, probably next year. And these will work with the long-term plans of the both the CIP and our discussions.
Right.
As Mr. Kowal said, we've been spending a lot of Wednesdays in the water department. So he's gotten a lot of time with boots on the ground in the water department,
Literally.
looking at these issues. So part of this we feel meets the requirement of a DTE energy grant, and we project that there may be a rebate available to us up to $7,194.66, depending on the results of a one-year study after these drives have gone in. We did receive a grant refund for the two previous variable frequency drives that we installed at Twin Lakes 1 and Twin Lakes 2 well houses right away. These drives, because of that district that this plant falls in, there's a significant decrease in demand in the wintertime there. It's mainly commercial in District 4 and 5. So typically in the summertime, we're seeing about 500,000 gallons per day pumped out of that facility now. We would like to connect that facility through a pressure reducing valve to District 3 long term. That would allow us to use more of that capacity that's there. But in the wintertime, we're down to about 100,000 gallons a day. So DTE requested that we do this one-year study to kind of determine the amount of the refund that we would be able to get with that. So I did have a typo on the memo. The actual cost of the project would be $48,969.86. That is before the credit of up to $7,194 1 year from now. We strongly feel that these drives will pay for themselves in just a few short years. Probably not as fast as the drives in District 3 did. They run a lot more than these drives do. But, if we can increase the demand, we've got quite a few different water projects coming up in that district. So, we feel like the more the demand increases in that district, the faster these will pay themselves off.
Okay. So for the layperson, these particular drives will act on a real simplified term, sort of like a dimmer switch. So you'll start off low and it turns up. And by doing this reduces our peak power take so that Detroit Edison doesn't charge us that high rate, and will add to the longevity of the motors on the wells themselves. All of the adjoining equipment will minimize or eliminate the hammering effect from the hard start and fast stop, and overall will be a real good way to start this particular well house's renovation and get us going in the right direction, and hopefully head us to some better parts of the project, like another iron filtration plant. Excuse me a moment. Yes, sir.
Thomas Johnson, 9136 Buckingham. I am a licensed drinking well operator myself. He used the word shock. I like to use the word metal fatigue. Anytime you've got a motor jumping in and jumping out, all pipes coming in and coming out will suffer vibration. Anytime you flex pipes like that, you not only have metal fatigue, but you can also have loose joints and develop leaks. So these variable speed motors are fantastic. They've even got it for houses now, to where as you need water, the phase will go ahead and change to control it. And this does save on pipes as well as the motors themselves.
Thank you. Okay. Any further discussion from the board? Mr. Roman?
Just an FYI here, and I noticed on the invoice from Lotus, they've got sales tax on there. I think you can get out of that.
Yeah, we're not
So
subject to that.
just an FYI.
Well, yeah, definitely we will.
So you're going to be under budget.
That. Off to a good start. I would like to also note that the second page of that showed the 3 different types of drives that were on there. The one that we chose to go with was not only the least expensive, but it's basically the newer version of the E-Flex drives that we purchased last year for Twin Lakes 1 and Twin Lakes 2. The Altivar 660 already includes, as a factory standard, the Modbus communication card to connect to the
Well, it's
SCADA.
pre-wired in a sense.
Exactly,
Yeah.
pre-wired for the SCADA upgrade that we'll be doing next year.
Okay.
So Lotus totaled those up on the quote for some reason.
Right, that was just, those are options.
Yeah, they were just options.
Mr. Lilly?
Yeah, again, I want to express some confidence and trust in what Mr. Potter is doing for us, but I do note that, that in the memo that was presented us that says these expenditures are budgeted in the 2017 budget, but I would just like to remind our board members that even though it's in the 2017 budget, operating budget, that we've already supplemented that budget by a couple $1,000s, $100,000 in order to meet that operating expense. So I want to again express my concern that there's a lot of items that we're talking about that are becoming necessities for this board to move forward on water, and I'm getting a little bit concerned about the dollars and cents and where we're going to go with that in the near future. So I just want to express my concern, but again, my confidence in Mr. Potter to move this
And that being said,
water department forward.
that being said, we are looking at that, and we are also going to be going through a water modeling study, I believe, before too long.
We've been
Actually working on that.
Yep, that's
And-
already been started.
Right, and that's part of our ultimately getting us to take and do some of this criteria that we're looking at to do a rate study and find out just where we're at. We have an infrastructure that we have to maintain. We have to make sure that it's functional and safe for the public, and we'll do it in as prudent and effective manner as possible. Thank you for your concern. I appreciate that. Mr. Powell?
And I'm sorry, Aaron, that I don't know this, but are there hydropneumatic tanks in this well house?
There are.
So
There's one huge one.
Okay.
One huge one.
And it's the intent to leave that in place, correct?
For now, the intent is to leave that in place. Now, if we, as Mr. Supervisor had mentioned, long-term, we'd like to add iron removal to that facility. I feel that there's a strong possibility that we may actually be able to fit the iron removal into that building in the space that gigantic hydro tank now occupies.
Well, that'd be great.
So, yeah, for now, it's going to stay right where it is.
And part of the plus of these soft start VFDs is the simple fact that Aspen Meadows is within an ideal proximity to the water tower. So any shock arrest can be balanced out through that water tower. So it'll virtually eliminate the need for that tank. And
Once the SCADA panel is installed there next year or later this year, if we can fit that in, that will effectively eliminate the need for that tank. We'll be able to control that site with those variable frequency drives based on just tank level alone.
So,
is there a reason, piggybacking on what Terry was talking about, is there a reason why you're approaching the board at this point in time for this?
This was identified in the 2016 Wellhouse audit. It was also something that Greg and I had talked about as far back as September of last year when I first started in over here. Basically, just financing is the reason why we're bringing it forward now. We gone through the budget process, and just real quick about what Mr. Lilly had asked about the money. We had approximately $390,000 remaining in our revenues versus expenditures last year. Right now, that's going through the year-end audit process to try to find out, exactly what we can move forward, what we can, what has to be paid off for us. I guess, what am I looking for here?
Any indebtedness or costs that we have pending.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, we do feel like there's money there from our budget last year, considering there was nobody in the water department last year to do anything for a good portion of the year.
Okay.
We had a significant amount of money left over, and we would like to use some of that for
All right.
helping
Just to
out
let
pay
the
some of
board-
this.
Mr. Rowland?
Excuse me, just to let the board know, we've got over $3 million sitting in water capital. I'm not that concerned about these types of expenditures. I agree. Once we start looking at iron filtration, absolutely, we'll look into, borrowing options, so.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I just want to mention Mike's concern there that after sitting there and reviewing a lot of the things that need to be done in the pump houses, that it seems like a lot of things are what we would probably categorize as more urgent or
We call them priorities.
priorities. Yeah,
We have more priorities than.
So it isn't like we can say, well, we're going to do this year, and we're going to do that next year, and we're going to do that the year after. So I think the board should be aware of that, and I think even on the water committee, that there should be really something that really get into very heavy to identify all of those current projects as well as what's being proposed in the future to get a handle on that, so.
Thank you.
Okay. I have motion, or Mr.
I'll make a motion to approve the variable frequency drives for Aspen Meadows, not to exceed $50,000.
Motion?
I'll second that.
I have support from Andrea. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you. Okay, and now we're down to item 8I. Mr. Lee?
Mr. Supervisor, we currently have $5,000 sitting in our trust and agency account that was donated by ITC back in 2012. We had purchased trees for the Hidden Pines Park that exceeded that amount, the trees, as far as the trees themselves and the plantings. Rather than let this account sit around just as a T&A account, just hanging out in the breeze, and unless there's other thoughts that the board members may have, my recommendation would be to move that back into the Parks and Recreation account in order to refund some of the money that was spent for those trees at that time.
Okay, that kind of makes sense. Any questions?
As the Parks and Rec liaison, I thank you for doing that.
Is that a motion, Terry?
I'll put that in the form of a motion.
I'll support that.
We have motion, we have support. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Item 8J, Resolution 17-002, the Great Sugden Lake Goose Roundup. Mr. Lilly.
Mr. Supervisor, based on a request, the Friends of Sugden Lake asking a request for a 5-year renewal of the Goose Roundup and goose nest destruction in Sugden Lake. There is a requirement in this renewal resolution that is required by the DNR that basically says that the authorize the goose roundup and nest destruction to be conducted on Sugden Lake. That's usually standard language that's required by the DEQ in order to have an appropriate resolution. So I would move resolution 17-002 for the Sugden Lake renewal, goose roundup renewal resolution.
I'll take that in the form as a motion.
I did put that.
Yes, sir. Okay, I'm looking for support.
Support.
I I have support from Andrea. A motion, support, discussion.
This is a very valuable tool to local
Yes.
lakes. It just it changes the whole dynamics of the lake in the spring, so
Right.
good process.
That's a classic case of a successful repopulation.
Yes.
To the point of nuisance almost.
Yes.
Yeah, unfortunately. With that, I will say all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. The goose is cooked. With that, I'm moving into item number 9, which is the trustee comments. And Andrea, I'm going to start on your end.
Once again, from the Parks and Rec liaison, I would thank you for the $5,000. In regards to Parks and Rec, we actually didn't have a meeting last month, so we're pretty quiet. I also like to talk about Historical Society, and unfortunately, I was out of town for that meeting, so I'm gonna be short. It's all yours.
Okay. Ms. Smith, comment?
Okay. Just a quick update about the library. I did attend the last board meeting in January, went very well. The board did already fill their vacancy with Karen Burkholtz, so she is the new library board trustee. Her first meeting, I believe Terry will be swearing her in tomorrow, correct? And so that's great, we have a new board member. I did speak with Larry today, director, that unfortunately the library might need to hook up to the sewer system in the near future, so that's something that they might have to deal with. They don't know yet. And they're whittling down their interviews for architects for the new library, so that's in the process. And then, of course, the annual fundraiser for the library, mini golf, is coming up, and that is Sunday, March 5th from 12 noon to 4 p.m. I sure think Larry would appreciate help at all if anyone's willing to come help set up or tear down. It's a big project, and that's the library's main fundraiser for the year. Am I missing anything else? There's a library board meeting tomorrow at 6:45 if anyone is interested in attending. It is getting exciting with the input of the new library being built, so if anybody has anything that they want to share with the board or welcome the new board member, is tomorrow. And I think that's about it with the library. I would be amiss if I didn't address the two people that have spoke this evening. I kind of couldn't believe my ears. I've never met those people before, and I am a child advocate. I do advocate for children with special education, IEPs, 504s, things like that. There's no police report to my knowledge. That was, I think, a case of fill in the blanks of what maybe they thought they saw. I will continue to advocate for children. I'm very passionate about that. I don't have a child that goes to that school. I mean, had a lot of unfortunate facts, and if they would like to speak to me privately, of course, I would have talked to anyone about that privately without breaking confidentiality of the child that I've been appointed to advocate for. So.
Okay, that's it. Thank you, Liz. Mr. Lilly.
I kind of felt a little bit disadvantaged tonight during public comments that typically it isn't in the place of the board members to make a comment, that those items be directed to you. And many, many times that all of us at one time or another are either accused of some wrongdoing or something we did right and we're still accused of it, and experienced some of that over my time. I believe at a disadvantage because I'm not able to answer truthfully to the person or the people that came before the board tonight to say that this issue has been appropriately dealt with by the board. And at some point of time, I think it would behoove all of us to, and I want to speak for everybody else, I'll speak for myself. I would feel like I'd like to be apprised of the situation and to be able to be part of a recommendation so that truthfully we can tell people that it has absolutely been dealt with on a level that we feel confident about. Whether that is probably not a public issue, be a quiet issue, but that we've dealt with it in our own respects and give people an answer that we're not going to ignore situations, whether it be this particular situation or any other that may come before the board at this point. So I would really like to encourage you to have some participation on the board members that choose to want to know that we have some consensus to deal with this and go on one way or the other. So
Very good.
also, like I say, I'd like to express my confidence in Aaron for everything that you do. Every day is got a new challenge. I take work into his office and I get a little dribbled back into mine. So sooner or later, we're going to get documents on the computer that we're going to be proud of that really are going to be accessible. So I'm really encouraged for what you do in helping us getting that going. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Mr. Supervisor.
I really,
Under 3
I'm
minutes.
very reluctant to go like this.
I wanted to thank Liz for the report on the library. I was going to ask you about that as well. And then, what time is the meeting tomorrow night
6:45.
in the library?
Downstairs, yeah.
6:45. All right. And then I wanted to, I'm sorry, I was just wondering if we might not schedule some discussion regarding changing the 45 days for the fireworks. I noticed in the previous minutes, and it seems to be an issue, whether it's whatever we're doing, whether it's 4th of July or whatever time. That 45 days seems to all be constantly coming up, and I didn't know if we might want to adjust that. It's a toss-up as no matter what time we put that, they'll probably push against it and not give you time to, the clerk's office time to do
It
something.
really isn't the clerk's office, Mike. It really is an application that has to be researched by the fire marshal, and it's really the fire department approval of the fireworks permit. All we are is the facilitator of the permit itself, so.
Okay, so the discussion, it might, maybe 45 days is right, but it seems like we're always bumping up against that, and it was just a suggestion. I wanted to possibly talk to this board and maybe the supervisor later. I know that there are problems in the maintaining of some county roadways, typically the gravel roads in the township. And at one time, I had communication with the road commission to establish a road maintenance district for public roads, and almost establish a special assessment district that the homeowners on a road and use a public roadway can in fact tax themselves for improvements to those gravel roadways. I know it's been done in other communities, and that might be a nice option here in this township to allow local residents to have some say over the improvements and the maintenance of existing roadways in the township. Wanted to bring the board's attention the fact that Commerce Township has adopted some new language. They were being inundated with gas station requests, and typically the Commerce Township, the old Commerce Township area, that's Commerce Road and Carroll Lake Road, and they've made a position now that they're not going to approve any gas stations in any location where the master plan has to be modified. And so they had like 5 applications all in that area all at the same time, and so just wanted to let the board know that they had to take drastic action like that to keep from being inundated with gas station requests. And that's it, Mr. Supervisor.
Well, I mean, excuse me, Mr. Roman, I think.
Right.
Just wanted to thank you, Mr. Supervisor, for your level of involvement in understanding and learning about our water and sewer issues. I've always been a believer that to truly understand an issue, you can't do it from a desk. You got to get out there, see it, and learn it, and that's what you've been doing. So, job well done.
Thanks.
That's it.
Okay, that leaves me. I will tell you that I hold all members of this board to the highest standards of ethical behavior. We are board members. We are not only public figures, but we are public figures in the limelight, and we do have an accountability to the township, the board members, and ourselves. The alleged allegations will require further review for me to look into, and I will do so in my capacity. I believe we have a very good board. I believe we are going to accomplish some very good things. We're moving forward. We have a very positive mindset, And we're trying to be proactive on many things. We're not trying not to let some things creep up on us. And that's what's important to the citizens, trying to give them the services that they have come to expect from us, and a level of service hopefully that we can provide. I've been trying to slowly rebuild the water department with Mr. Potter's most diligent help, and it is starting to come to life, and we are learning, the old dogs are learning some new tricks from Aaron, so from a technological standpoint, which is extremely helpful. And in turn, his input and help will help the entire township in the way that it operates, microfiche and a variety of other applications that we have that we're going to be working in our city works. And the level of involvement that I am at is to try to see and analyze independently what the problems are and what needs to be addressed, and I will continue to do so. And I think this is going to be an ongoing matter for some period of time until we get kind of caught up, so to speak, up to speed. A few things we'd like to do. We'd like to see that pressurization on the system become equal. That may require some further investment in our water system that will add to the longevity of all of our systems. We'd like to see the additional iron filtration plant, which will make an astounding difference in the overall life expectancy of our water system, its valves, all its nuts, bolts, components, anything. And not to mention your washing machine, your water softener, your bathtub jet pump, your ugly brown line on the side of your house. Those types of things, it'll all make a big difference in the quality of the water that you get. It's just a matter of now, how long before we get plant number 1 online?
Startup should commence second week of March.
Second week of March. Very good.
Expect the plant to be operational probably second week of April.
Very
Oh,
good.
nice.
So this will make a huge difference to the quality of the water and the bulk of the township. So we are trying to move forward, and we will do so and try to bring the best services we can. And this is the team that is doing it, and it takes a definite effort of everyone on board to make it work. So with that, I will say that I believe we are going to go into executive session, so I am looking for a motion.
Lisa, do you want these separately or into?
Separately.
Separate. I'll make
Mr.
a
Lilly.
motion, Mr. Supervisor, to approval to recess into closed session to consider the purchase of real property in accordance with MCL 15268D.
I have a motion.
Roll call.
Oh, I beg your pardon. Roll call vote. Yes.
I'll support it.
I'll support that.
Okay. Support.
Mike Paul?
Yes.
Andrea Boyce?
Yes.
Liz Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Roman?
Yes.
Mr. Lilly votes yes, Mr. Supervisor.
Yes.
I'd like to also make a motion to approve to recess into closed session to consider attorney-client privileged communication in accordance with MCL 15268H.
I'll support that.
Support.
Roll call.
Roll call vote.
Mike Paul?
Yes.
Andrea Boyce?
Yes.
Liz Smith?
Yes.
Mike Roman?
Yes.
Mr. Lilly votes yes, Mr. Supervisor.
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion for approval to recess into closed session to consult with legal counsel regarding trial and settlement strategies in connection with litigation of White Lake Township versus Moreau and Franklin Incorporated, Oakland County Circuit Court case number 2016-152-176 CZ in accordance with MCL 15268E.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yes.
Support.
Sorry.
Support, yes.
Liz Smith?
Yes.
Andrea Voorhees?
Yes.
Mike Paul?
Yes.
Mr. Roman?
Yes.
Mr. Lilly votes yes, Mr. Supervisor.
Yes.
Again, I'd like to make a motion, White Lake versus Randy Hebert, Oakland County Circuit Court case 92-431-212 CZ in accordance with MCL 15268E.
I'll support that.
Support by Andrea. Roll call vote.
Mike Paul?
Yes.
Andrea Voorhees.
Yes.
Liz Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Roman.
Yes.
Mr. Lloyd votes yes. Mr. Kowa.
Yes. With that, we'll take a 10-minute adjourn. Recess, excuse me.
Recess.
I'll get it right.